Expanded 19th-century translations of the Eddas circulate widely. Loki re-enters modern intellectual consciousness during Romantic and philological movements. 1962 CE. United States. Journey into Mystery Number 85 introduces Marvel's Loki. First modern superhero reinterpretation of Loki as recurring antagonist to Thor. 1963 CE. United States. Loki appears in the Avengers number 1. Positions Loki as catalyst villain responsible for forming the Avengers team. 1994 CE. United States. Loki appears in Marvel animated series adaptations. Expands Loki's presence to television audiences and younger demographics. 2011 CE. Global. Release of Marvel Studios' Thor. Tom Hiddleston's portrayal redefines Loki as charismatic manipulative anti-hero for modern audiences. 2012 CE. Global. Release of The Avengers. Solidifies Loki as central MCU antagonist and global pop culture icon. 2013 CE. Global. Release of Thor, The Dark World. Deepens Loki's complexity, shifting from villain to morally ambiguous figure. 2017 CE. Global. Release of Thor, Ragnarok. Repositions Loki as reluctant ally, emphasizes trickster charm over pure villainy. 2018 CE. Global. Release of Avengers, Infinity War. Loki's apparent death elevates him to tragic anti-hero status within the MCU. 2019 CE. Global. Release of Avengers, Endgame, where an alternate Loki escapes with the Tesseract. Creates the multiverse variant leading directly into a standalone series. 2021 CE. Global. Disney Plus series Loki premieres, Season 1. Reframes Loki as a multiversal anti-hero and explores identity and destiny. 2023 CE. Global. Loki Season 2 premieres. Concludes his transformation into a cosmic stabilizer figure, cementing his evolution from manipulator to multiversal architect. Pre-Loki trickster traits, cunning, boundary crossing, shape-shifting, circulate in oral tradition before attested Norse texts. 800 CE. Scandinavia and North Atlantic. Viking Age expansion spreads Norse cosmology. Myths involving Odin, Thor, and Loki spread through raiding, trade, and settlement, embedding Loki deeper in the shared Norse mythic framework. 900 CE. Iceland, Scandinavia. Loki appears fully integrated in Eddic-style oral cycles. Core Loki narratives, mischief, shape-shifting, alliance with Odin, and tension with other gods, stabilize in the oral tradition. 1000 CE. Norway, Iceland, Denmark. Christianization of Scandinavia accelerates. Norse myths begin to be preserved by Christian scribes. Loki's image shifts toward a more adversarial, devil-adjacent figure in later interpretation. 1220 CE. Iceland. Compilation of the Poetic Edda. Primary source preserving Loki's mythic narratives including Lokasenna and Völuspá. 1225 CE. Iceland. Prose Edda written by Snorri Sturluson. Systematizes Loki's mythology including Baldur's death, shape-shifting episodes, and Ragnarok role. 1875 CE. Europe. Expanded 19th-century translations of the Eddas circulate widely. Loki re-enters modern intellectual consciousness during Romantic and philological movements. 1962 CE. United States. Journey into Mystery Number 85 introduces Marvel's Loki. First modern superhero reinterpretation of Loki as recurring antagonist to Thor. 1963 CE. United States. Loki appears in the Avengers number 1. Positions Loki as catalyst villain responsible for forming the Avengers team. 1994 CE. United States. Loki appears in Marvel animated series adaptations. Expands Loki's presence to television audiences and younger demographics. 2011 CE. Global. Release of Marvel Studios' Thor. Tom Hiddleston's portrayal redefines Loki as charismatic manipulative anti-hero for modern audiences. 2012 CE. Global. Release of The Avengers. Solidifies Loki as central MCU antagonist and global pop culture icon. 2013 CE. Global. Release of Thor, The Dark World. Deepens Loki's complexity, shifting from villain to morally ambiguous figure. 2017 CE. Global. Release of Thor, Ragnarok. Repositions Loki as reluctant ally, emphasizes trickster charm over pure villainy. 2018 CE. Global. Release of Avengers, Infinity War. Loki's apparent death elevates him to tragic anti-hero status within the MCU. 2019 CE. Global. Release of Avengers, Endgame, where an alternate Loki escapes with the Tesseract. Creates the multiverse variant leading directly into a standalone series. 2021 CE. Global. Disney Plus series Loki premieres, Season 1. Reframes Loki as a multiversal anti-hero and explores identity and destiny. 2023 CE. Global. Loki Season 2 premieres. Concludes his transformation into a cosmic stabilizer figure, cementing his evolution from manipulator to multiversal architect.
Ogwe, Admiral of the Living Sea. Stand at the edge of the Atlantic long enough and you begin to understand something. The ocean is not empty. It moves with intention. It breathes with memory. It carries names that history tried to erase. Every tide pulls at something deeper than the shore. Within that vastness stands Ogwe. He is not the chaos of crashing waves, nor the reckless fury of the storm. He is the discipline within the tide, the command inside emotion, the authority that charts the horizon. Ogwe is Admiral. His presence is not loud, but it is undeniable. His skin is imagined in deep maritime blue, not decorative sky blue, but the heavy blue found beneath the surface where the light begins to disappear. Blue that borders on black, blue that holds secrets. Against the depth, gold rests easy. Chains like navigational lines, medallions like compass centers. Adornments that echo anchors pulled from the seafloor. Water does not thrash against him, it parts. When he stands in waist-high surf, the waves bend around his frames. The tide slows in recognition. The current listens. His crown rises like coral and plume, red and gold, cutting against the ocean air. Not vanity, but rank. Not decoration, but office. He governs sea salt. He governs ships. He governs routes, and routes shape destiny. The sea has been commerce, invasion, escape, exile, return. It has carried explorers and conquerors, traders and captives, dreamers and displaced. Ogwe presides over every crossing. He is the keeper of the passage, the witness of migration, the silent authority over the line between homeland and horizon. For the African diaspora, the Atlantic is not just geography, it is archive, it is grave, it is womb, it is rupture and survival intertwined. Millions crossed unwillingly, millions never saw land again. Millions endured and carried memory forward. Within voodoo cosmology, the sea is threshold, a place where worlds meet and spirits travel. Offerings to Ogwe are set afloat in small boats and released into the open water. They are not placed on altars inside walls. They are entrusted to distance. If the sea returns the offering, it was refused. If it carries it outward, it was accepted. Even in ritual, the message is clear. The ocean decides. Ogwe becomes more than a maritime spirit. He becomes the guardian of the scattered, protector of those who crossed and survived, keeper of those who did not. The Atlantic is not silent under his command, it remembers. Storms rise, and some say it is random weather. Others whisper that the sea corrects itself, that it refutes certain weights, that it rejects certain chains. Agwe does not rage without purpose. He commands. In ceremony, when he mounts a devotee, the posture changes. The body straightens. Movements become precise, controlled, naval. This is dignity in the bearing, authority in the gesture. He may salute, he may demand water. He may move as though standing on the deck of a ship no one else can see. His authority is not theatrical, it is discipline. He is often paired with La Sarine, the mermaid of death and longing. If she is the song that draws you to the sea, he is the structure that governs its currents. If she is seduction and emotion, he is sovereignty and protection. Together they embody the emotional and commanding halves of the sea, call and command, longing and law. Agwe's roots reach beyond the Caribbean. His essence echoes older West and Central African water traditions, river spirits, deep water guardians, forces of crossing and return. He carries ancestral continuity across oceans. Water was humanity's first mirror, its first road, its first boundary. Agwe stands within that paradox. He is not the wave that crashes for spectacle, he is the tide that endures. For a people dispersed by water, he represents strength without cruelty, authority without oppression, protection without noise. He does not shout across the sea. He stands within it, steady, unmovable, commanding routes no empire could fully control. The ocean still moves, ships still cross, and beneath every horizon line, the admiral watches. Akasha of Kemet, the queen who did not die. Now this story takes place in ancient Kemet, in an age before history had hardened to dates. An age where empires were still learning what they were, learning their power. Kemet was rising, pulling itself away from the older, darker traditions, blood rites, ancestral consumption, magic fed by death rather than memory. At the heart of this transformation stood a woman from beyond its borders, Akasha. She was not born of Kemet. She came from the lands of Sumer, Mesopotamia, where the first cities were built, where queens were not ornaments but institutions themselves. When she was wed to Enkil, the king of Kemet, the marriage was political, but the power she brought was real. Akasha did not rule from behind the throne. She was the throne's spine. Known as the queen of beauty and order, Akasha was spoken of as a devastating beauty, not a fragile beauty, not a decorative beauty, but a regal beauty. Her skin was dark and luminous, kissed by the sun of the south. Her body bore the symmetry of deliberate design. Her hair was worn in intricate braids, woven with gold, beads, and ritual markings, each braid a language of status, lineage, and intent. When she walked, people noticed. When she spoke, people listened. And when she ruled, things changed. Under Akasha and Enkil, Kemet began to cleanse itself. Cannibalism was outlawed. Blood sorcery was dismantled. The old shadow priesthoods were dragged into the light. And civilization makes enemies along its way. Enter the witch sisters. Among those enemies were two ancient sisters, Maharet and Makari. Now their mother had been a very powerful witch, one of the old order, and when she died, the sisters followed their ancestral rites, preparing to consume her body, her brain, her flesh, in order to absorb her knowledge and power. To them, this was sacred. This was lineage. To Akasha, this was barbarism, and this was a crime. They were arrested, not gently, and they were beaten, dragged before the queen. And Akasha did not show them mercy. She humiliated them publicly. She had them punished, scarred, and cast down, not as witches, but simply as criminals themselves. Now, this was not cruelty. This was policy. and the sisters never forgave her for that. The summoning of Amil. Now Maharet and Makari retreated into exile, into the old places where these new laws did not reach them. And there, in rage and humiliation, they summoned Amil. Not a god, not a demon in the Christian sense, a blood spirit, ancient, feral, drawn to death, thriving in the cracks between life and decay. They did not ask Amil to kill Akasha. They asked him to torment her, to haunt her days, to fracture her sleep, to make her doubt her own mind. And Amil agreed. And the harassment began. Akasha began to suffer. Shadows moved when they shouldn't. Voices whispered without mouths. Objects shifted. Blood dreams plagued her sleep. And she knew what this was. An attempt at possession. A fight for her soul. And she resisted it. She resisted the spirit with her will alone, refusing to allow it to claim her. But Amil was ancient, powerful, and patient. And so he lingered. He fed on his proximity to her. The waiting was his gift. And then came the assassination. Again, civilization makes many enemies, and she had her share. And one day came the blades. An assassination attempt, political, coordinated, inevitable. Enkill was struck first. Akasha was then stabbed. As her blood spilled onto the stone, her body began to fail, and thus her soul rose. And that is the moment that everything broke. As Akasha crossed the threshold of death, Amil followed her, and this spirit latched onto her departing soul, not out of love, not out of design, but out of instinct, that of a predator. And when Akasha's soul tried to leave her body, Amil pulled it back in. They fell together, the spirit and the queen, back into the flesh. Her heart restarted, her wounds sealed, her blood changed, and Akasha awoke. Not alive, not dead, but bound. The first vampire queen. She arose as something new. Her senses shattered their limits. Her hunger was no longer her own. Her blood burned with foreign will. Amil was now fused to her, feeding through her, whispering through instinct, bound permanently for all time. Akasha had not chosen immortality. She had simply been denied death. The turning of Enkill. Enkill lay there dying, and Akasha refused to lose him. So she fed him her blood. And then Enkill died. And then horrifically, he rose. And in that moment, vampirism was born. Not from ambition, but from love and refusal to endure loss. The judgment on the witches. Akasha and Enkill hunted the sisters, sparing no expense. Maharet was found, and she was spared, but mutilated. Her eyes were destroyed, and she was cast into an endless exile. Makari was driven mad, sent wandering, carrying the seed of legacy in her, her survival ensuring the truth would never fully die. The old magic was not destroyed, but it was scattered. The martyrdom. Akasha did not seek godhood. She paid for reform with her eternity. She paid for civilization itself with her soul. She became the mother of monsters against her will, bound forever to a parasite born of ancient cruelty and modern resistance. She was not evil by origin. She is what happens when a woman stands between the old world and the future, and the future demands blood. Goddess who did not accept drought. In the late Bronze Age city of Ugarit, along the coast of what is now Syria, clay tablets are pressed with cuneiform signs that preserve one of the oldest storm myths in recorded history. Among those tablets was the story of Baal, the storm god. And within that story stands a figure who does not wait quietly for events to unfold. Her name is Anet. Now, Baal was not merely a god of thunder in this narrative. He represents rain, fertility, agricultural survival. In a region dependent on seasonal storms, Baal's vitality determines whether crops grow or fail. When Baal rises, the land flourishes. When Baal falls, droughts threaten everything. The Baal cycle describes a cosmic conflict. Baal clashes with Yam, the sea. Later, he confronts Mot, the god of death and sterility. These are not abstract enemies. Yam represents chaotic waters. Mot represents drought, dryness, the swallowing stiffness of death. And at one point in the narrative, Baal is defeated. Now, the text becomes fragmentary, but the message is clear. The storm god disappears. The rains cease. The agricultural cycle halts. And for a Bronze Age society, this is not symbolic drama. This is catastrophe. And this is where Anat enters with force. Anat is often described as Baal's sister. In some traditions, she is also his ally or consort. But the text makes one thing unmistakable. She is not subordinate. She is fierce, independent, emotionally intense. When Baal falls, Anat does not collapse into mourning. She reacts. The Ugaritic texts describe her rage in striking terms. She seeks out those who are responsible. She seizes enemies. She attacks without hesitation. The language is violent. She grabs warriors. She splits them. She scatters bodies. One passage describes her wading knee-deep in blood. Another describes her rejoicing in slaughter. This detail is uncomfortable for modern ears, but it tells us something important. In this world, violence carried out in defense of cosmic order is not shameful. It's necessary. Anat does not hesitate because hesitation would mean drought continues. She does not negotiate because negotiation does not bring rain. And myth does not portray her as irrational. It portrays her as decisive. The slaughter imagery is vivid, almost ritualistic. The battlefield becomes a space of sacred correction. Blood is not randomly cruel, it's restoration through force, through tribal theology. Anat's loyalty to Baal is absolute. When he is threatened, she becomes the weapon. But her most significant confrontation is not merely with human entities, it is with Mot. Mot is not simply a rival deity. Mot represents death itself, sterility, dry earth, the swallowing void that ends growth. So when Baal descends into the realm of Mot, drought grips the land. Anat searches for him. Now, the text describe her journey into grief, but grief does not paralyze her. She confronts Mot directly. The fragment suggests imagery once again. Anat seizes Mot. She cuts him. She burns him. In some reconstructions, she grinds him and scatters him like grain. Even if the exact sequence varies due to damaged tablets, the symbolic pattern is unmistakable. She does not reason with death. She dismantles it. This is not a goddess of comfort. This is a goddess of intervention. The violence serves a purpose. Eventually, Baal returns. The storm resumes and rain falls. Thus, fertility is restored. Without Anat's ferocity, that restoration does not occur. Now, in the structure of myth, Baal may be the storm, but Anat is the enforcer of its return. She is not ornamental to the story. She is essential to the resolution. Now, archaeologically, her presence is not confined to myth alone. Inscriptions and cultic materials found in Ugarit confirms that she was actively worshipped. Kemetic or Egyptian texts mention her name, indicating a cross-cultural recognition. Later inscriptions referencing Anat Yahu suggest that her memory survived into adapted forms even beyond the collapse of Ugarit. But the Baal cycle remains her clearest portrayal. In that portrait, Anat is not the nurturing mother archetype familiar in many myth systems. She is tribal protector. She is the embodiment of loyalty carried to its extreme. Her joy in battle is not random cruelty. It reflects a worldview in which survival is fragile and threats are constant. The late Bronze Age Levant was not a stable world. City-states rose and fell. Agricultural cycles could fall. Warfare was common, and political alliances shifted. A society in that environment does not imagine divinity as passive. It imagines divinity as fiercely protective. Anat does not apologize for violence. She sanctifies it when it preserves order. This is a crucial distinction. Her brutality is not chaos. It's simply boundary enforcement. She defends Baal. She defends fertility. She defends continuity. And in that way, Anat represents a specific kind of sacred feminine power. Not romantic love, not cosmic abstraction, but embodied physical defense. Her myth forces uncomfortable questions. Can violence actually be sacred? Can destruction be restorative? Is loyalty more important than mercy in unstable societies? Now, from the authors of the Baal cycle, the answer appears to be yes. Anat's blood-soaked battlefield is not a moral failure. It is divine necessity. And that necessity restores the storm. When Baal rises again, the land breathes. Rain falls, crops grow, life resumes. The cycle continues. Anat does not claim the throne. She does not demand worship in the text climax. She recedes once balance is restored. The restraint is telling. She is not driven by conquest. She is driven by defense. Her violence has purpose, and when that purpose is fulfilled, she stands down. In comparative mythology, Anat stands apart because of the clarity of her ferocity. She is not softened. She is not reinterpreted as gentle. The tablets preserve her intense, unapologetic, and loyal. That preservation gives us a rare insight into the psychology of ancient culture. In a fragile world, survival is sacred. In a fragile world, protection may require force. Anat embodies the logic without hesitation. She is not storm, she is not fire. She is blade and blood in defense of continuity. In the Baal cycle, drought threatens civilization. Anat refuses to let drought win. And in that refusal, she becomes one of the most striking examples of the fierce, protective, feminine in ancient Near East. She is the goddess who did not accept death as final. She is the one who confronted drought with steel. She is Anat. Angrboda, the grief bringer. In Norse cosmology, the end of the gods has a mother, and her name is Angrboda. She does not rule a hall in Asgard. She does not sit among the Aesir. She doesn't even shout across battlefields. She simply stands in Ironwood, and from her comes Ragnarok. In Jotunheim, far from the ordered halls of Asgard, stood a region known as Ironwood, a place of shadow, prophecy, and old power. There lived Angrboda, a Jotun, not a goddess of Asgard, not a servant, not subordinate, but a being of primordial force. Her name means she who brings grief. And in Norse myth, names are not simply decorative. They are destiny. She is not introduced with fanfare, no feast hall, no divine spotlight. She exists in the margins. And the margins is where fate is born. The union of chaos. Into Ironwood comes Loki, the trickster, the shapeshifter, the fracture in divine order. What happens between Loki and Angrboda is not a romance mythology. This is alignment. This is chaos meeting inevitability. From this first union are born three beings who would define the end of the gods. Fenrir, the wolf who would devour Odin. Jormungandr, the serpent who will poison the skies battling Thor. And Hel, the sovereign of the dishonored dead. Now understand the weight of this. From her, she births the end of Odin, the death of Thor, and the ruler of the underworld. This is not coincidence, this is structural myth design. The mother of Ragnarok. The gods discover these children, and they panic. Fenrir is chained. Gormagad is cast into the sea. Hel is sent to rule the dead. The Aesir try to contain the future, but Angrboda, she is not slain, she is not imprisoned, she is not even punished. She remains in Ironwood, just watching. There is something chilling about that. The father is bound in chains after his crimes. The children are exiled, but the mother, untouched. Because she represents something older than the Aesir. She is not rebellion, she is consequence. The Shadow Feminine. Angrboda does not swing a hammer like Thor. She does not sit on a throne like Odin, and she does not boast like Freya. But she births inevitability. In mythic structure, she represents the womb of catastrophe, the feminine aspect of fate, the quiet architect of endings, and the shadow mother archetype. She is the inversion of the nurturing goddess, not because she is evil, but because she gives birth to what must happen. In Norse cosmology, even the gods cannot escape fate, and Angrboda is one of fate's instruments. Why she matters. Without Angrboda, there is no Fenrir. There is no world serpent. There is no Hel. There is no Ragnarok as we know it. She does not dominate the text, but she dominates the outcome. And that's the myth at its sharpest. The loudest characters are rarely the most powerful. Sometimes the one who stands in the forest is the one who changes the mythic world. The myth of Mot and Baal, when death devours the storm. Now, in Canaanite Ugaritic belief systems, Baal is the god of rain and thunder, the pulse of fertile power moving throughout the world. He is not merely worshipped, he is anticipated. When Baal walks the high places, the earth responds. Fields soften beneath his feet, seeds swell in their sleep, the air thickens with promise. When his voice rolls across the sky, clouds gather without command, and rain follows as if it remembers something it had almost forgotten. Life does not just obey Baal, it recognizes him. He is the storm that arrives when the land has waited long enough, the rhythm that turns dust back into soil. Kings praise him not for conquest, but because the people eat when he is near. Baal is abundance made audible. And far below, where no rain ever falls, Mot waits. Mot is the god of death. Not a ruler seated on a throne, not a judge waiting hearts. Mot is consumption. He does not govern the dead. He does not organize them. He does not give them a purpose or rest. He opens his mouth, vast and endless, and the dead pass into him as grain into a mill. In Mot's realm, there is no light, no growth, no becoming. There is only hunger, patience, grinding and eternal. Bones are stripped, names are dissolved, even memory is chewed down to nothing. Death in Mot's keeping is not an ending, it is being eaten. And when Baal's reign grows generous, when life sprouts too far and too freely, Mot's hunger deepens, because abundance always calls to appetite. When Baal establishes his palace, the sky changes. Rain no longer comes in hesitation. It falls freely, generously, as if the heavens themselves have been persuaded to trust the earth again. Thunder rolls not as a warning, but as reassurance, and the land drinks deeply. Crops grow heavy with grain. Vines sag under their own abundance. Rivers swell past their banks, no longer cautious, no longer restrained. And life spreads outward, unchecked, not because Baal demands it, but because nothing stops it. And far below, where no water ever reaches, Mot begins to stir. He feels the weight of growth pressing against the boundaries of the world. He senses abundance piling upon itself, unconsumed, unbroken. Hunger is not emotion for Mot, it is response. Excess must be eaten. Silence must answer noise. From the dry depths beneath the roots of the world, Mot notices the rain, and he speaks. Not with anger, not with envy, but in clarity. A message rises from below, not a threat, not a challenge, but a summons older than the argument. Come down, Mot says, descend into my mouth. Let me swallow you as all things are swallowed. And this was no insult. This was not triumph. This was merely inevitability. Baal hears the call and does not laugh. He does not strike the sky with thunder. He does not gather the clouds into weapons. He only understands. Life has grown loud. Life has grown full. And death is now hungry. The descent. And so now Baal descends into the realm of Mot. Not through a gate, not through a door, but through a withholding of the world. The sky above him thins. The air loses weight. The sound of thunder fades. Not suddenly, but as if it were being pulled away, strand by strand. Color drains from the horizon. What was once distant becomes depth. This is not another land. It is beneath land. Baal passes below roots, below stone, below the memory of water. The ground grows dry, then brittle, then empty of all scent and softness. Here, nothing waits to grow again. This is Mot's domain. It is not fire, it is not shadow. It is absence made vast. The air tastes of dust and old endings. The ground does not echo footsteps because nothing has ever lingered long enough to leave a sound behind. This is a place where time does not move forward, it only finishes. And Mot is there. He is not shaped like a king. He does not sit upon a throne. Mot is hunger given form. His body is wide and endless. His mouth a darkness without edge or bottom. His throat is a narrowing of all things. Within him are the remains of gods and men alike, ground down, undistinguishable, unfinished meals of eternity. He does not glare at Baal, he does not rise, he simply opens. There is no battle at this threshold, no thunder breaks the silence, no lightning dares follow Baal here. Mot does not need to overpower, he only needs to receive it. Baal steps forward, and Mot closes, and Baal is thus consumed. And above, the world responds. Rain stops. Clouds thin and scatter like breath in cold air. Rivers shrink back to their banks. Then further still. The soil hardens. Fields crack open, not in protest, but in quiet failure. The land does not scream. Without Baal, life does not collapse violently. It begins to shrink. Leaves curl inward. Seeds sleep and do not wake. What once reached outward now pulls back, conserving what little warmth remains. Life does not rage against death. It simply waits. And now we have life without rain. Time passes, not as moments counted, but as absence accumulating. The gods wait, watching the sky for signs that do not. Clouds gather out of habit, then thin and disappear. Thunder remembers its old path and finds nothing to travel along. Days lengthen, and seasons hesitate, but still nothing changes. Altars stand unused, prayers rise and fall back unheard. The land learns the weight of silence and carries it poorly. Baal does not return, and Mot does not speak of it. He does not announce victory, he does not claim dominion, he does not mark the moment as special. Below the world, Mot continues exactly as he always has. He eats. The dead passed into him without ceremony. Gods, mortals, creatures of breath and root alike. Everything that reaches its end is taken in and broken down. No name is remembered longer than it takes to deserve, because death does not require acknowledgement. It does not need triumph, it does not need witness. It only needs consumption. And so the world above learns something it did not know, that life can disappear without being noticed. But the thing that consumes it, life can disappear without being noticed by the thing that consumes it. But Anat refuses the stillness. Now Anat is the goddess of war and vitality, the blood-bright sister of Baal, known by many names. She who loves battle, she who delights in slaughter, the maiden who breaks armies. Where Baal brings rain, Anat brings motion. Where he nourishes, she cuts. Life does not only grow, it fights to remain. Anat is not patient, she is not tempered, she is the force that answers silence with violence. When Baal does not return, she notices the world's thinning breath, and she sees fields rise and fall. Rivers retreat, the land's bending inward on itself like a body conserving heat. And she searches for him, not gently, not cautiously. She tears through the borders of the world until there is nowhere left to look but below. And there she finds Mot. Mot does not greet her. He is not threatened. He does not flee. He opens his mouth as he always has. And Anat does not hesitate. She does not negotiate. She does not ask for balance. She does not respect necessity. She attacks even death itself. She strikes Mot with blade and fury, hacking him apart as one would butcher a carcass. She cuts him down, grinds his remains, scatters them across the land, into rivers, into soil, into the very dust that once starved. She burns him, she crushes him, she sows his pieces like seed. This is not wisdom, this is flat out rage. It is grief given muscle and steel, and for that moment, it works. With Mot scattered and broken, the world hesitates. Nothing rushes back all at once. Then slowly something shifts. The sky darkens, not with storm but with memory. Clouds begin to gather where air had forgotten how. The first drops of rain fall uncertainly, as if testing whether the earth still knows how to receive water. And the land answered. Cracked soil softens, seeds long dormant stir beneath the surface. Rivers remember their cousins and begin to move forward again. Thin at first, then fuller and sure. And Baal returns. not in fire and not in conquest. He rises like rain returning to parched land, not new, not changed, but resumed. Thunder follows him again, rolling across the sky like voices claiming victory in its range. Lightning traces old paths, illuminating fields that had nearly given up hope. Life surges back into motion. Green spreads, crops lift their heads, and the world exhales. Baal walks around the living once more, and abundance follows as if it always had. Not because he commanded it, but because his presence restores a rhythm that had previously been interrupted. For a time, it seems as though death had been defeated. The gods rejoice, the lands themselves flourish, and the cycle feels broken. And beneath the celebration, something stirs. Because Mot does not stay scattered. Death does not remain undone. What Anat destroyed was not death itself, but its form. And slowly, inevitably, Mot begins to gather again. Hunger reforms, absence thickens. The quiet below the world grows heavy with promise. Death has been wounded, but death has not been erased. And for Baal, for all his thunder, he knows this. Below the renewed world, something begins to gather. Not suddenly, not loudly. There's no scream, no thunder, no omen warning the living. Death does not announce its recovery. It does not demand recognition. It simply reforms. From the dust where Anat scattered him, Mot begins to draw himself together again. Grains rot, leaves fall back into soil, bones settle beneath the earth. Hunger, long delayed, resumes its work. Mot does not remember pain. He does not carry anger. What was broken will never be destroyed, only disappeared. Slowly, this absence deepens again. The silence between the world thickens. The great mouth that once closed around Baal opens once more, patient, unchanged. Death has finished being interrupted, and Mot rises. They struggle, not with weapons, not with storm or teeth, but with presence itself. Baal brings rain, Mot brings drought. Baal restores while Mot consumes. Neither can destroy the other. Life cannot exist without death to make room for it. Death cannot consume everything without ending its own purpose. And the struggle resolves the only way it could, not through victory, through limit. Baal will fall into Mot's mouth again, and he will rise again, and rain will return, and drought will follow. The land will flourish, and then it will be empty. This is not cruelty. This is in fact order. Mot does not rule the world. Baal does not escape him. They simply take turns. Now, as we've seen, Hades administers death. Hell keeps it. Osiris structures it. Izanami warns against crossing it. Savitri outwalks it, and Erishkigal stays within it. Mot consumes, and Baal proves that every living thing must learn that you are not immortal, you will not be erased, you are not seasonal, because life does not win by escaping death. It wins by returning every time death finishes eating. Belphegor, the god who became a demon. The name Belphegor does not begin in hell. It begins in stone. Winds move across the eastern highlands beyond Jordan. The air there is dry, carrying dust that clings to skin and cloth. The mountain named Peor rises from that terrain, not the tallest peak, but one visible enough to command attention. On its heights, altars stood, not carved in the Gothic imagination of medieval demonology, but in the rough, practical stone of the ancient Levant. Oil burned in shallow bowls, animal fat crackled in the heat. Smoke lifted towards the sky in dark ribbons that bent with the wind. The people who climbed this mountain did not believe they were serving a demon. They believed they were honoring a lord. Baal Peor. A Baal was not a devil. A Baal was a master, a possessor, a ruler. Across Canaan and its neighboring lands, Each territory had its Baal, its localized manifestation of storm, fertility, and dominion. Baal Peor belonged to Moab. His name was tied to the place, the geography, to the very slope of that mountain. The rites associated him were agricultural and seasonal. Fertility was not metaphorical. It meant rain. It meant grain rising from the soil. It meant herds multiplying. It meant survival. And in a land where drought meant death, fertility gods were not luxuries. They were necessities. The wind at Peor would have carried the scent of blood and incense. Drums might have sounded low, steady, repetitive. The ritual has a rhythm. It is the rhythm of petition. Hands lifted, voices called out, offerings were made. This was not chaos, it was covenant. A tribe honoring the power they believed governed their land. The mountain watched, the sky shifted, the god was invoked. And somewhere across the Jordan, another people moved closer. The Israelites encamped near Moab during the wilderness wandering. Their narratives tell it sharply, without sympathy. The book of Numbers speaks of enticement, of Moabite women drawing Israelite men into sacrifice, of participation in the rites of Baal Peor. The text does not linger in description. It moves quickly to consequence, plague, anger, zeal. But imagine in that tension, in that valley, two peoples, two cosmologies, two understandings of divine order. When the Israelites joined in the rites of Peor, it was not merely an act of personal indulgence. It was a fracture in a covenant identity. To the authors of that text, this was not curiosity. It was betrayal. And the response was violent. Phinehas, grandson of Aaron, takes a spear and enacts judgment. The plague halts. The narrative closes with an affirmation of loyalty to the God of Israel. And Baal Peor is left in the text as a name stained by transgression. He is no longer described in ritual detail. He becomes shorthand, a symbol of seduction away from the covenant. But from the Moabite perspective, nothing has changed. The mountain still stood. The rites likely continued for generations beyond the moment preserved in Hebrew scripture. What changed was a story told about him. The first transformation of Baal Peor was not physical. It was narrative. He moved from local god to rival god, from rival god to condemned god. And once a deity is condemned within a monotheistic framework, his fate is sealed. He cannot remain neutral. He cannot become false. Centuries pass. Empire shifts. Babylon rises. Judah falls. Exile shapes theology. During and after exile, Israelite religion hardens around exclusive monotheism. The old language of other gods gives way to something sharper. There are no other gods. There are idols. There are deceivers. There are forces that lead astray. The gods of surrounding nations were reframed, not as alternate divine beings, but as corruptions. The worship is no longer competition, it is error. Baal Peor survives in memory only as a warning. His fertility rites become excessive. His mountain becomes a site of shame. The god who once received smoke and song now exists in text as a cautionary tale. And yet the name persists. They linger. When Christianity spreads through Rome, it inherits not only Hebrew scripture, but the memory of ancient rival gods. The theological imagination expands. Angels and demons are categorized. Hierarchies are drafted. The unseen realm is systemized. Pagan gods are not ignored, they are reclassified. From the late antiquity into the medieval period, the transformation deepens. The old Baal names scattered across scripture begin to crystallize into demonic entities. Baal Zebub becomes Beelzebub, and Baal Peor becomes Belphegor. The sound shifts slightly in the passage through language, Hebrew to Greek, Greek to Latin, but the root remains, Belphegor. By now, he no longer stands on a mountain. He stands in hell. The grimoires of the Renaissance and early modern period describe him with specificity. He is counted among the princes of the infernal realm. In some traditions, he is assigned to the deadly sin of sloth. But even here, something in his ancient character survives. Belphegor tempts through prosperity. He offers ingenious discoveries. He whispers solutions. He encourages innovation. He does not destroy fields with fire. He promises abundance without labor. Picture him not merely as a skeletal horror, but as a presence. The air around him feels heavy, not with heat, but with stagnation, not with the violent heat of wrath, but the slow suffocation of complacency. His throne is less a seat of conquest and more a monument to decay. Stone eroded by time, mechanisms rusting, clocks frozen at the moment effort ceased. His voice is not thunderous. It is patient, measured, persuasive. He does not shout, he suggests. Why strain when there is an easier way? Why toil when innovation can replace effort? Why discipline the body when comfort is within reach? The sin of sloth in medieval theology was not simply laziness, it is spiritual apathy, a refusal to pursue what is difficult but necessary, a collapse of will. Belphegor becomes the embodiment of that collapse. Once he presided over fertility, the multiplication of life. Now he presides over inertia, the multiplication of excuses. And yet, the through line is subtle. Both identities revolve around abundance. The Baal Peor was invoked to increase crops and herds. Belphegor tempts humans with the increase of wealth and convenience. What changes is the moral framing. In Moab, abundance was a divine blessing. In medieval Europe, abundance without labor was suspicious. The god did not necessarily transform in nature, he transformed in interpretation. Where Baal Peor once stood beneath the open sky, Belphegor is described beneath no sky at all. The Renaissance grimoires do not give him wind or horizon, they give him rank. In such books as the Pseudemonica Daemonium, he is counted among the infernal authorities, not a wandering spirit nor a minor imp, but power with jurisdiction. He is seated. That detail matters. Seated implies permanence, authority, and establishment. Hell in these systems is not chaos. It is organized, layered, administrative. Princes govern domains. Legions serve under them. Titles are precision. Belphegor does not rage across battlefields. He governs the slow collapse of discipline. Imagine the chamber in which he sits. Not fire, not brimstone, but stone. Ancient stone, damp and cold. The kind of cold that creeps to the bone. Torches burn low along the walls, not for warmth, but for formality. Ritual illumination. The air smells metallic, faintly of oil and of rust. Around him are the remnants of industry. Wheels frozen mid-turn, mechanisms half complete, tools abandoned where they fail. This is not destruction by violence, it is destruction by neglect. Belphegor tempts through ease. Grimoires describe him offering discoveries, mechanical insights, clever innovations, sudden wealth. He is said to help people make ingenious devices. And the irony is sharp. The demon of sloth inspiring innovation. But medieval theologians did not see the contradiction. To them, invention without moral grounding was dangerous. Cleverness detached from virtue led to pride, greed, and spiritual decay. Belphegor does not tempt you to lie, he tempts you to avoid effort, to substitute convenience for growth, to take the path that weakens you slowly. His presence would not be loud. He would feel like heaviness in limbs, a fog in the will, a whisper that almost sounds reasonable. Rest, delay, there is time. The medieval understanding of sloth was not about naps. It was about spiritual paralysis, a sadness that makes discipline feel pointless, a resistance to pursuing the good. Belphegor becomes patron of that paralysis. His throne imagery grows more grotesque after each imagination. Some depictions render him skeletal, emaciated, crowned with twisted thorns. Others show him seated on a toilet-like structure, a crude medieval satire emphasizing filth and corruption. These images are polemic. They are not history of Moab. They are theology weaponized, but they reveal something important. The god of rival culture is not merely rejected, he is humiliated. His dignity is stripped, his former sacredness inverted. The process is complete. Baal Peor once presided over ritual abundance. Belphegor presides over moral decay. Yet in the darkness of the chamber, beneath the torchlight and the stone, something ancient lingers. The mountain has been replaced by a throne, the open sky replaced by a vault of shadows. But he is still seated. He is still a lord, still associated with increase, whether crops or innovation. The difference lies in the framing. To the Moabites, increase was survival. To medieval Christians, increase without toil was corruption. So Belphegor becomes the whisper behind shortcuts, the architect of systems that remove struggle, the subtle underminer of strength. Imagine approaching him. The chamber is silent except for the faint scrape of metal shifting somewhere unseen. The floor is cold beneath your feet. There's no wind, no external world. Only him. His eyes would not blaze, they would watch. Patient. He would not promise kingdoms, he would promise relief. And that was far more dangerous, because relief feels merciful, but relief without discipline becomes erosion. The 7 deadly sins were not random categories, they were patterns of decay. Pride swells, envy corrodes, wrath burns, greed consumes, gluttony devours, lust entangles, and sloth suffocates. It is the slow death. Belphegor darkness is not spectacle, it is stillness. The stillness of ambition abandoned, the stillness of muscles unused, the stillness of a mind that once sought greatness and now seeks comfort. And so the god of Peor, who once stood amid smoke and wind, now sits in stone silence, not because he changed in essence, but because the world that named him changed his theology. From molten altar to infernal throne, from fertility rite to demonic catalog, from Baal Peor to Belphegor. This transformation tells us as much about human memory as it says about this god. Gods do not always die. Sometimes they are reassigned, rewritten, recast in shadows. Belphegor remains one of the clearest examples of this transformation. A deity once invoked for life and abundance becomes a prince of decay, not destroyed, but reinterpreted. And in that reinterpretation lies the final layer of the myth, because every age defines its demons according to its fear. Moab feared the drought. Medieval Europe feared moral collapse. Modern readers fear stagnation, systems that remove agency, technologies that promise ease but demand nothing of the soul. Belphegor sits here, not necessarily in hell, but in the space where effort weakens and convenience grows. He does not roar, he simply waits. Irzuli Danto, the scarred mother, the fire, the protector. There is a goddess who does not smile softly. There is a goddess who does not ask for admiration. She stands scarred. She stands armed. She stands holding a child in one arm and a blade in the other. This is Irzuli Danto. She's not delicate romance. She is not silk and perfume. She is love forged in violence. She is the Petro fire of Haitian voodoo. And where she lives in cosmology. Now, in Haitian voodoo, there is a distant creator, Bondi. Bondi does not interfere directly in daily life. Instead, humans interact with Iwe, the spirits. The Iwe are not gods in the Western Greek Olympian sense. These are forces, personalities, ancestral intelligences, archetypal energies. And among the Iwe, there are two major energetic currents. Rada, which is cool, ancestral, and stabilizing, and Petro, which is hot, reactive, revolutionary. Irzuli Danto belongs to the Petro current. Petro is fire. Petro is gunpowder. Petro is a spirit that rises when oppression becomes unbearable. Petro Iwe are not calm river spirits. They are storm systems. Danto is one of the most fierce among them. And she is not Irzuli Frida, and this is a critical point. There is another Irzuli, and that is Irzuli Frida. Now, Frida is luxury. Frida wears lace. Frida longs for romance, for perfume, for admiration. Frida is the dream of European refinement layered over Afro-Caribbean devotion. But Danto is different. Danto is the dark-skinned sister. She is scarred. She is often depicted holding a knife. She's associated with working-class women, market women, and single mothers. Whereas Frida wants to be adored, Danto demands loyalty. Frida weeps when love fails. Danto remembers who betrayed her. The split between them is not just theological. It is representative of class, it is representative of skin tone, and it reflects a colonial history. Two faces of the feminine under oppression, one aspiring to be treasured, one refusing to be destroyed. The scar. One of Danto's defining features is the scar on her face. And this imagery is not random. She is often synchronized with Madonna of the Sheik Tak Chow, a Catholic icon whose face visibly bears scars. So when enslaved Africans were forced into Catholic structures, they encoded their spirits within the same imagery. Spiritual camouflage, as it were, or survival theology. The Black Madonna, dark-skinned, scarred, maternal, became a vessel through which Danto could remain present. But the scars matter symbolically. A scar is healed trauma. A scar is injury survived. A scar says, I was cut, I did not die. Danto is not the untouched maiden. She is the wounded mother who survived. And that difference changes everything. Now, she is truly a mother archetype. She is fiercely maternal. She's associated with motherhood, especially protective motherhood. Not sentimental motherhood, protective. The kind that will fight, the kind that will kill, the kind that will burn down a system before allowing harm to her child. In many depictions, she holds a child against her chest, and that child represents the vulnerable, the future, the oppressed, or the community at large. She is evoked by women who have been betrayed, women who have been abused, women who have been abandoned, single mothers who had to become both nurturer and warrior. She is not the goddess of romantic fantasy. She is the goddess of survival. Revolutionary fire. There are strong traditions linking petrol spirit to the Haitian revolutions. The ceremony of Bois Cayman often mytholized an ignition point of the revolution, including invoking fierce spirits. Petro Iwe were the spirits of that uprising. Whether Danto was explicitly invoked or later associated, mythically she represents revolutionary fire itself. She embodies the moment when endurance becomes resistance. She is the spirit that says enough, not politely, not diplomatically, but definitively. And that is why she is feared. Petrol energy is not comfortable energy. It is transformative through destruction. Jealousy reconsidered. Now, Danto is often described as being jealous, but jealousy in this context is misunderstood. This is not petty insecurity, this is protective possessiveness. This is the jealousy of someone who has already lost everything once, the jealousy of someone who will not allow betrayal again. In this way, we compare her to Hera, the jealous wife, or Sekhmet, wrath unleashed for cosmic balance, or even Kali, destructive mother clearing corruption. Danto sits in the lineage of fierce feminine archetypes, but her rage is grounded in historical trauma. It is not abstract cosmic balance, it is lived memory, and this makes her psychologically very powerful. Now, in the diaspora, she has a specific identity. She represents more than theology. She represents Afro-diasporic survival. Voodoo itself is a system born from forced displacement, slavery, and cultural fusion. Within that system, Danto embodies the mother who endured plantation brutality, the woman who carried lineage forward under violence, the refusal to dissolve into erasure. She is sacred anger made legitimate. And this is deeply uncomfortable for colonial narratives, because sacred anger cannot be dismissed as hysteria. It is spiritualized resistance. Now, Petro versus control. Now, Petro energy emerges under pressure, when systems become suffocating, when injustice calcifies. Petro spirits are reactionary in the truest sense. They react to oppression. In that sense, Danto fits perfectly in the larger mythic themes of freedom versus control. She is what happens when control goes too far. She is the spiritual eruption. You can suppress Rada energy. You cannot indefinitely suppress Petro. Eventually, it ignites. Why she matters now. Modern relevance is obvious. She doesn't need to be forced. Single mothers navigating hostile systems, women navigating betrayal, communities navigating institutional neglect. Danto becomes an archetype for protective boundaries, unapologetic defense, refusal to accept disrespect. She does not preach forgiveness as virtue, she demands accountability. And in a world that often romanticizes passive femininity, she stands as a counter image. Scarred, armed, loving, dangerous. If Frida is the dream of being chosen, Danto is the vow never to be abandoned again. If Frida is perfume, Danto is gunfire. If Frida longs, Danto remembers. She is not the goddess of romance. She is the goddess of loyalty. She is the fire that protects children. She is the scar that speaks. She is Irzuli Danto. The myth of Izanami and why death must remain unseen. Now, Izanami does not rule the dead because she chose to. She rules because love followed her where it should not have gone. In Japanese myth, death is not evil. It is contamination, a state that spreads where boundaries have been violated. Izanami is not terrifying because she dies. She's terrifying because she is looked at after death. Izanami and Izanagi create the world together. The land, the sea, the gods, and creation itself is intimate, cooperative, and sacred. So this is not a domination myth. This is a partnership. And then Izanami dies, giving birth to fire. It is painful, it is messy, and it feels wrong, as we watch creation claim its very first prize. But then we see love that refuses to let go. because Izanagi cannot accept her death. And this is the first mistake. So he descends into Yomo, the underworld, not to conquer, not to rescue the world, but to bring his wife back to life. This is not noble. It is selfish. He wants continuity where none is allowed. Izanami tells him not to look at her, not as a test, but simply as mercy. And then there comes the look that breaks all reality, because Izanagi looks anyway. What he sees is not a monster in the cinematic sense, but what he sees is rot, decay. This is the truth of what death does to the body when life has left it. The horror is not Izanami's form. The horror is that love demanded to see it. And in that moment, intimacy becomes violation. Izanami does not chase Izanagi out of rage alone. She chases him because he has broken the rule that keeps the worlds apart. Death must remain unseen, because once you see it, you cannot unsee the effects of death. You cannot romanticize it. You cannot pretend love makes it safe. Izanami becomes death not out of malice, but out of necessity. And this is why Izanami must be sealed away. When Izanagi escapes, he seals Yami behind a boulder. This is not abandonment. It is truly containment. The living cannot coexist with unveiled death. Izanami promises to take 1,000 lives a day. Izanagi answers that he will create 1,500 more. It is not victory, it is called equilibrium. Life and death are no longer lovers, they are opposing processes. Hades teaches us that death is inevitable. Hell teaches us that death is final. Osiris teaches us that death continues. Izanami teaches us something much harder. Death is not meant to be witnessed up close by those who still love, because love will try to bring it back, and death will answer by spreading. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do is not look back. Lord of the Deep, Keeper of the Unseen. Now Kanaloa is not announced with thunder. He arrives the way the tide does, quiet, inevitable, already touching your feet before you notice. He is the god of the deep ocean, of healing through immersion, of chaos without malice, of exile that becomes initiation. He is the realm beneath the story everyone prefers to tell. Now this is the old truth. His domain is the abysmal ocean, the dark water beyond the reef. He is defined by salt, pressure, silence, and memory, the place where things go when they are no longer wanted above. He is the shapeshifter, often seen as the Hi'i or octopus, known for intelligence, adaptability, and knowing when to disappear. Not a ruler by command, but by gravity as things fall toward him. His powers lie in the healing that burns at first, knowledge earned by the descent, and survival through change, not conquest. Kanaloa does not compete with the sky gods, he completes them. When the gods shaped the world, they argued over light, land, and lineage. Kanaloa listened, and when the arguing grew loud enough to drown out the truth, he stepped into the sea, past the coral cities, past the fish that still know the sun, down where the pressure is so deep it erases noise. There, Kanaloa learned what others could not, that creation does not end at the surface. Everything broken above continues below. When the humans were cast out, the sick, the grieving, the disobedient, the too curious, they were said to be claimed by Kanaloa. Villages whispered, the ocean took him, but the old kahuna knew better. Kanaloa did not take lives, he took names. Those who survived the deep returned with new eyes, quieter voices, and unsettling calm. They no longer feared endings. They had seen where endings. Here is the Hi'i's lesson. Kanaloa chose the octopus not for its strangeness, but for its wisdom. No bones, no crown, no permanent shape. 8 arms, each thinking for themselves. Kanaloa taught through the hi'i that when hunted, become the reef, when cornered, become water, when known, become unknown. Not every battle is meant to be won loudly. The breaking of his name. Then came new gods with straight lines and hard rules. They saw darkness and panicked. They saw chaos and demanded order. They saw a God who ruled without hierarchy and felt threatened. So they rewrote. Deep became hell. Silence became evil. Exile became punishment. Kanaloa didn't resist. The ocean never